Welcome back to Where in the World, where we have real conversations with young professionals about life and career, all while attempting to guess where in the world they are. We'll learn something new about our guests and what it's like to forge your own career path as a young professional. And when we say young, we're really talking about a state of mind. You'll learn by watching this web series that your career will take many dips and turns over time. And just when you think you've made it, you might have to scrap it all and start from scratch. Sometimes that's just the way it goes, and we ride the tide. I'm your host, Clary Johnson, and we're joined today by ShaharaZade Danzy, a Sensory Insights Associate at Brisan Group. In her role, Scheherazade trains sensory panelists in the art of activating and describing their senses. The big, hairy question we're asking today is how can activating our senses improve our quality of life as young professionals? But before we jump in, let's do some housekeeping. This is a mini web series game show. The questions will range from standard like interview questions to more personal questions about our guests' careers. You'll notice we're both here today with different backgrounds. In between questions, we'll each have an opportunity to guess where in the world the other person is. The first person to guess correctly wins. Our guests can ask for clues along the way, and our audience can help out as well by also asking for clues. So please join me in welcoming Scheherazade.
Hello, hello, Clary. Thanks for having me.
Pardon my enthusiasm. This is truly a college reunion, and
Yeah,
we have a lot of catching up to do. Okay.
of course.
I don't know if I've ever been more excited about a topic on this show, and we've really had some interesting topics. What I'm most looking forward to is learning more about your role in sensory insights because prior to our conversation, I'd never heard of it before. I connected with my own senses in a new way several years ago when I began my journey towards mental health. And I can remember being amazed by how much effort and intention it actually took to really slow down and feel life. And so, activating your senses can have so many mental health benefits. And I can't wait to
Mhm.
learn more about how we can tap into our sense of touch, sight, sound, smell, taste, and intuition because I believe intuition is an underrated sense, and I look forward to finding out from you just how many senses there really are. Are there five? Are there more? So before you reveal that answer, though, let's get started with our most common interview question. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background.
All righty. Well, we went to school together at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, U of I and I. Well, IL, excuse me. Um,
I L L I N I.
and I majored in food science and human nutrition. I've been in the food industry. Oh gosh, it's been a while. I've been in the food industry. I've been in like every sector, almost in the food industry, ranging from the product development side, the chemistry side, regulatory, quality, and sensory. So that's a little bit about me professionally and personally. I am a new mommy. I had my daughter almost 3 months ago now. So it's been a wild, challenging, but exciting ride. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. Probably here in the background. So she has a voice in this web series too.
She is welcome to join us in this web series. And I'm excited to get your perspective as well. And we're going to touch on this a little bit later if we have time on life and career as a mom, because I know there are lots of people who are going to be watching the show who are also balancing being moms, being parents, and
Mhm.
leading careers. And so you as a new parent have a kind of a first fresh look at what that experience is like, and would love to get your perspective on kind of what that feels like. I'm
Mhm.
not a parent personally. I am a dog mom though, which I'm a proud dog mom, but that's not quite the same as kind of raising and rearing a child. So love, love, love to get that perspective. But before we move on, it's time to take our first guess about where in the world we are.
All right.
So w- let me just say the city that you're in right now
Can
is
you
very
see?
cool. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's blue water. Wait, do that again. Do that again. Okay. Looks like there are some jet skiers in the background. There's a beautiful sunset going on. It looks like there's some water, like a I can't tell if that's water, if that's yeah, that
Let me move again.
water in the yeah, that's definitely an ocean, a body of water of some sort. Okay, I'm gonna just put it out there, Dubai.
How did you know? Really? Did you do an image shirts?
Okay, to be fair, and I should have been transparent about this before we hopped on. I have visited Dubai before, so
Oh,
I'm
okay.
familiar with the place, but this could have been anywhere. Um, wow, this okay. So is that the Burj Khalifa in the back? That's not the Burj Khalifa. I think the Burj Khalifa is like pointy, right? And on your right.
I believe so.
Oh yeah, there it is in the background. I have been to Dubai before, but it's okay because you have plenty of opportunities to guess where I am.
Oh dear. It looks like some sort of underwater. Is that like a restaurant or something?
It is a restaurant.
Hmm.
Okay, so let me give you a clue about
Mm-hmm.
this place. Okay, so this place, the country that this place in, used to be a fishing village, and it's actually home to 15 Michelin star restaurants.
Hmm.
And I believe this is probably one of them. So 15 Michelin star restaurants, and I believe this is one of them, but I'll double check. I'll fact check that and I will confirm that on our next round. But for now, let's move on to our next question.
I can use Google, right?
Yes, of course. Let the furious typing begin. Okay. How would you describe your career in this moment? Because come on, like you got to describe to us what a sensory insight specialist is and paint a picture of the path that brought you here.
Well, so basically what I am is a sensory scientist. My formal title is a sensory insights and associates. So basically what I do is I train people how to taste food. And yeah, it's like really you have a job in that? Like who would have thought, right? So, but basically, I run a descriptive panel and I train them on how to use their five senses, on how to be able to describe to me what types of describe to me the different types of food that they are tasting. And sensory science in itself can go beyond food, actually. Sensory science is also used in like your everyday um, house cleaners or like your um, clothes and things like that. So it's you using your five senses to just to see how the product performs overall, and we use those results to report back to different food companies to see, okay, for example, let's say a food company is changing a recipe, and they want to see, is the new recipe comparable to the original recipe. So that's where I would come in at, and teach my well train my panelists and ask them, okay, how do you feel about different types of flavors or aromatics, textures, visuals of a food product, and if you can, on in descriptive, we score them using like a scale, different types of scales. On the scale, where does it fall on it? Is it like extreme or all the way to not detectable, and things like that? So uh yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, so why I get so excited about this is because one of the purposes of this show
Hmm.
is to really show young professionals the multitude of career paths that are available to them. Even the careers that we don't think are possible or we can't even imagine, right?
Hmm.
Or the things that don't come to mind immediately. Like people might think chef, but how many people think teaching other people how to feel, how to taste? The second part that really struck me is you introduce yourself as someone who teaches people how to taste food, but as you were describing what you do, you're really teaching them how to use all of their senses to activate this one sense. So that's so fascinating to me that I think, for me personally, kind of going through life, I see, my sight as one sense, my smell as one sense, my taste as one sense. But in reality, all of that is coming together to create
Hmm.
a full experience and expression of life. And because I'm someone who's able bodied, so I have access to all of my senses, whereas someone who may only have access to a few senses, right? Like
Hmm.
that experience of life is going to be a little bit different. And so I find it really fascinating to think about, really sitting with my senses and really appreciating how well they work together. So when I'm tasting, it's not just a taste, it's also seeing the food, salivating, right? Getting hungry, like,
Hmm.
like all of that, smelling it, right? All of that, the texture is a part of the full experience of enjoyment. And so, how do we actually bring this to our full expression of life? That's kind of the question we're going to dive into today.
Let's see. Well, you honestly, you use your five senses every single day. Even you don't think about it, and I feel like after I've become a sensory scientist, like I actually think about what I'm tasting and how it looks, and is it even good, like, so since then I am more critical about the foods that I taste. And like, is it really good to me? And I feel as though, just in general, like using your five senses in everyday life, like what uh what anything, is it good to me? Like, if I'm looking outside and I see a car drive by, and like, okay, is that car look good to me, like visually? And then, you know clothing wise, does it feel good to me, does it look good, and things like that. So um yeah, it's just, now I guess I just think about it a little bit more. How do I really apply my five senses? It's like, like an everyday person, like, oh, I like this or whatever, I'm gonna buy it. Or, oh, I like this, I'm going to use this resource, or things like that. So it's like, okay, if you take a step back, visually this looks good,
Hmm.
touching it, it feels good. If I'm eating something or whatever, it tastes good and it smells good. And, so you're using your five senses, and, it sounds good too, right? So it's like, breaking that down into those five pieces, it's like, okay, now I can really think about what I'm doing versus like, oh, I just like this, whatever. Let me get
Mhm.
it, and use it. So,
And what you're saying is spot on. So one of my best friends who's actually been on the show before, her name is Sandy.
hmm
She gave me some advice several years ago about making purchases. So usually I go and I want to make a purchase, but I can't decide what to buy. And she says, buy the thing that feels good, right?
hmm
Like if it's a blanket, feel it. And if it feels good to you, that's the blanket to get, right? Like be intentional about buying things that feel good to you on your skin, right? To touch.
hmm
And I've adopted that in my life and it's brought so much comfort, so much joy, and it's really actually helped me to make purchase decisions too. Cuz I'm like, this feels what does this feel like? What does this feel like? And it makes it less of a rational choice and more bringing kind of that emotional element to it. So, okay, excellent. So I guessed where you were, and maybe that was unfair because honestly, I could have taken my time and tried to pinpoint exactly where in the world you were. But I want to understand why we chose this place.
Well, for me, I really want to go to Dubai one day because of the technology there. Apparently, the technology is much more advanced there. It is here in America, and I would really like to see that. And also being able to see the world's tallest building and the aquariums and, different beaches and actually seeing a police car and a Bugatti or a Ferrari, like, you know. So it's like, okay, is this place real? Like, you know. So that's why I would like to go to Dubai.
I will say the Bugatti police cars are real.
Oh, really?
They exist. Dubai also, I think a lot of people don't talk enough about this, but in addition to advanced technology in the world's tallest building, RIP Willis Tower, aka Sears Tower, um, they also have, and I'm sure this is a statistic, they have a lot of malls, if not the most malls per capita. 'Cause I remember going there and literally every turn you take, there is a mall. And I'm not talking about just a strip mall, like big, huge malls. So
Yeah.
very cool place. One of my favorite places in Dubai to visit were the souks, where you could actually
Mhm.
go and you could bargain for different items. So I bought several scarves there. It was a really fun place. All right, so your turn. You've
All
guessed
right.
correctly. I am in a restaurant.
All righty. Let me use my little Google search engine. So it's an underwater uh, restaurant.
Mhm,
Let's see. And you said it was a Michelin star.
mhm.
All right. Are we in Mexico?
Oh, we are not in Mexico,
Ah.
but I will give you an idea of where we are.
Okay.
So we are not in Mexico. We are um more east of Mexico. So we're east northeast of Mexico. Far,
Spain?
far north. Okay, yes, you are in the right area. You're
Okay.
in the right vicinity. If from Spain, go a little bit more north. I shouldn't say a little bit. Go more north, and then also more east, and you'll be in the area. Let me give you a clue about this place.
Okay.
So often considered the world's most creative restaurant.
Mhm.
This place is set in the building workshop of the Royal, in the former set building workshop of the Royal Danish Theatre. So this restaurant is set in a former theater. Okay. Okay. So before you guess again, we're going to go to our next question. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So imagine for a moment that we, the audience, that we're a group of sensory panelists. Walk us briefly through your typical training process.
Alrighty, so if you are a new sensory panelist, I will first give you a background about sensory and why we do sensory and why we need you to do sensory. Because, any company needs a consumer, right? Because we buy the goods, right? So, after teaching them the background and as teaching why sensory is important, and we start going through our senses. Okay, well, visually, what does this look like to you? Like colors and what colors can you see? Is it like a pale yellow or a bright yellow, or is it even a gold color? Things like that. And then we go into touch and like, okay, well, how does this feel? Is it rough? Is it smooth? Is it bumpy? Things like that. And then we go into, when our senses with our ears, hearing. How does it sound? Like maybe you're chewing, maybe let's say a Rice Krispie. Does it has like that crisp sound? Is it crunchy or is it pretty silent? You don't hear anything, things like that. And then we go to our taste and smell. So those two work together. And if you can't smell, let's say you have a cold or something, you all, congested, and you notice like, whatever I'm tasting it doesn't taste the same. I might be able to taste like the sweetness and the saltiness, but I don't taste like maybe like the pineapple flavor or like, maybe that coffee flavor, things like that. It's because your nose and mouth work together when you're tasting. So your nose is inhaling all those aromatics, those aromas, and which enhances the taste of your food. So when you're tasting, you know, it makes it more of a pleasurable experience, right? So I teach all that and I go through several, sessions, and depending on what product it is. If it's um, like soup, okay, let's, all right, train on soups. Okay, let's, build a lexicon, which is like, okay, my own, what our own attributes that we're looking for and define those attributes that we're looking for. So let's say, for example, for soup, we're looking for um, the viscosity of the soup. So how thick or how thin is it? Is it like a really thin like water, or is it really thick like a gel, or like those gel cups or jellies and things like that? And we have a group discussion and we come to group consensus. Okay, once, and then we build out that lexicon, and then that's when we start scoring. Okay, or are we really getting this in this product, or are we not? And yeah, and then after that, they give me their data, and I report, do my little report, and send it off to the company.
Wow, that's amazing. I love it. You used the Rice Krispie as an example because that's one of my favorite treats. It's one of my favorite self care treats.
Mhm,
If anyone has a noodles and company in their area, I go to Noodles and Company specifically for their Rice Krispie treats. I don't get anything else.
mhm,
It's one of my favorite things. And I like to do that because sometimes if I'm leaving work or I'm just having a day where I'm a little bit stressed out, I food is a pleasurable experience that helps me to soothe and relax. And so maybe I think one of the things I do like about my Rice Krispie treats is the fact that it's gooey sometimes, but then sometimes I get it a little crunchy, so it has that texture difference, and I never really know what I'm gonna get. Um,
mhm,
and then, of course, the flavor of it, but hearing that crunch, hearing that sound is a part of that pleasurable experience. So next time I get my Rice Krispie, I'm definitely going to slow down a little bit and see like what am I smelling, right? Because it's also the smell of the Rice Krispie. You know, you're a kid making Rice Krispies in your kitchen, and it's like
mhm,
like it's that smell, or even when you think about Rice Krispies in a bowl of milk and eating it as cereal, right?
Mhm.
It's the same thing, just in a different form. And so it's interesting to see how that experience changes with the different senses. And when it's in that bowl of milk, you actually hear the snap, crackle, and pop,
Exactly.
right? Versus when you're just crunching on it. So, okay, cool. We are here at guest time. So we're in a restaurant. We are in Europe.
Mhm.
And this is, I did not confirm if this is a Michelin star restaurant, but from the pictures, I'm almost positive it's Michelin star. It has to be.
Mhm.
Where do you think I am?
Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. I heard you say Danish. I'm going out on a whim and say Denmark.
We are in Denmark.
Oh, okay.
I
Oh.
did say Danish. We are in Denmark. Yes, we are.
Okay. Let's see. Is
All right.
it?
You already guessed.
Oh.
I have to pace you. I have to pace you because we got a few more questions to go. Okay.
All
All
right.
right. Cool. All right. So let's move on to our next question. How many senses are there really?
It's 5.
Five?
That's it. I mean, you can do like your sixth sense, maybe like your intuition or something. Like some people, like, oh, I have the sixth sense. I really feel like this is gonna happen. Like,
Yeah.
okay, that's. I mean, I guess depending on who you're talking to, maybe there's six senses, but it's really just 5 senses. That's it.
Okay. Okay. What about that feeling? Like, when someone is staring at you and you don't cognitively no, but then you just
Mhm.
look and they're staring at and you're like, "Oh, I felt you staring at me." Or, you walk into a room, and this is really great in the workplace too, right? It's,
Mhm.
read the room.
Yeah.
You walk into a room and you feel tension. It's like, "Ooh, there's tension in this room." Obviously, maybe you're looking at facial expressions, but there's definitely an energy there. What would you
Mhm.
call that?
Maybe the vibes. Like, you can have like, bad energy or, bad vibes or good vibes. I guess it's like maybe that's the sixth sense in the sense, like, okay, if someone's looking at me, I can feel it. And, you're not looking at looking at them, looking at you at first, right? It's like you kind of, maybe there is a sixth sense, maybe.
Hey,
I don't,
and that's a vibe, okay?
yeah.
That is a vibe, okay? Can we talk about frequencies and how real they are, okay?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I believe that. I believe that. Okay, cool. So, um, l give us from your perspective. I'm gonna kind of skip the guess real quick because that was kind of a fun question. But this is a real question. From
Mhm.
your perspective, in what ways can tapping into our senses improve our mental health and quality of life as young professionals?
Honestly, I say, I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, saying what feels good to you and, what is good to you and what's good to you the legal way. But, like, I feel as though if if it doesn't feel good to you, like if it's some food related issues, like, okay, well, this doesn't really feel good to me. It makes my stomach turn. Leave it alone, right? I'm trying to better my, um, how do I put this? Trying to eat better, and eating better makes me feel good. It's better for my, quality of life as well, right? Also, thinking about, what I see in everyday life. If I don't like what I'm seeing, okay, well, I need to change that to something that I see that looks good to me, or what I'm hearing from different ones, okay, how can I listen to something that sounds good to me, something that's positive, that really will give me that boost of energy or, make me feel good and things like that. So it's like you use your five senses in a way like, okay, what really and truly feels good to me so that I can, mentally be okay and also improve my quality of life. And I really believe, using your five senses will help you, improve your quality of life and really help you mentally because, if it really doesn't feel good, that really can affect you, mentally, like, you go into depression or whatever the case may be, it's like, okay, take a step back. What really feels good?
Hmm. And what you're saying rings true for me because I was in therapy several years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and this is when I first learned that I suffered from something called anxiety. I'd never heard of anxiety before. I didn't know what it was. I mean, I'd heard of
Mm-hmm.
it, but I didn't know about it, how it pertained to me. And I learned something called cognitive behavioral therapy. Now, I am not a therapist, okay? So do not take my word for this, but in cognitive behavioral therapy, they teach that your thoughts, feelings, and actions are connected. So it's kind of in this triangle format. And
Mm-hmm.
the the common thought is if you let's say I'm feeling anxious, right? It's really about identifying what are you actually feeling, right? What you were saying, my stomach is churning, my heart is pounding, I feel, creepy crawlies all over my skin, I'm pacing back and forth, right? Like, what are
Mm-hmm.
you feeling in your body? And really being able to identify that that emotion, that what's happening in your body, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then once you're able to identify that, then from there, you can proceed to either change your thoughts or your feelings, right? So, for example, if my heart is racing, well, I might be, sorry, my thoughts or my actions. So, if my heart is racing,
Mm-hmm.
and I go, let's say I'm late for work, right? And I'm anxious about it and my heart is racing. And I go and I get into my car. Well, now I'm acting out of road rage, right? I'm acting in out of road rage because my adrenaline is already pumping because I'm having these thoughts that, oh my goodness, I'm going to be late and it's going to be the end of the world. I'm going to lose my job. What are they going to think of me? Right. But if we could just pause, and if we can find a way to change our feelings or change our thoughts or change our actions, then we can actually de escalate that situation. So, in that case, it might be instead of hopping in the car immediately and driving to work, it might be picking up the phone, calling our boss, and saying, "Hey, I'm running a few minutes late. I'll be there soon." Right.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, my thoughts have changed because I'm not like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be late. I'm going to get fired. Now, my thoughts is I've communicated what's going on and I've given myself a window, some time to get to work, right? And so now when I get into my car, I'm more calm. My heart rate now has decreased, so my feelings have kind of subsided. So I learned about this process, and really what stuck out to me most is this idea that your feelings are a kind of they are telling you if something is right or something is wrong. And I can remember lots of times in my life when I had a bad feeling about something, but I didn't act on it and I didn't change course and things didn't turn out well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's is really important, even when you think about the workplace and we think about our relationships. And we just had an episode on that a couple weeks ago. When we think about how we're engaging in relationships with people and how we're showing up to work, is it in a way that do we feel good in our workspaces? And if it's something where we're showing up to work and we're feeling anxious, then it's really important for us to pause and ask why. Like, what's going on here? right? I'm showing up to work. Every time I show up, my palms are sweating. I'm anxious. My heartbeat is racing. I'm having these nervous thoughts. I'm fearful. Is this a healthy
Mhm.
environment for me? And it might be asking that really hard question and taking a step forward and doing something different to kind of change the environment you're in, so that you
Right.
can be in a space where you feel like you're being nurtured, where you feel good, right? And it's not to say that there aren't going to be times in your jobs where everything feels good, right? Like, challenges are there to push us, challenges are there to evolve us. But there's a difference between a challenge and something that you're constantly facing and constantly up against, where it's impacting your quality of life, where when you go home you're stressed out, right? And now maybe you're not eating, or maybe you're overeating. Like, those are the types of things to really take note of. And when that's
Mhm.
happening, if that's happening in your life, it may be time to make a change. So I do believe in the power of the feeling state. And again, when we're talking about feeling, we're talking about, like, what are you actually feeling? What's the texture? What's the smell, right? Like, not necessarily the emotion. Like, what are you actually feeling?
Right. Exactly. Because I mean, with your feelings, you can see it happening, you can hear it happening. It's like those are the first two things, when you walk into a room. You see, maybe someone's sad, or you hear someone is, bashing you or someone else. It's like, okay, that doesn't really feel good. Like I kind of feel some type of way, about that. So it's like there have been times where I had to, you know think about what I was hearing, what I was seeing, like, okay, you know what, let me take a step back. And you just have to take a step back and really reevaluate, like, is this really good for my mental health or my quality of life? Am I really taking this mental load, career wise or job wise, from work to home, and it's caused me not to sleep at night? It's like, okay,
Hmm.
let's do a reset. Is this really worth it? And you just have to uh, figure out, is it really feeling good? Is my mental state okay? My quality of life, is it going, is it decreasing, and things like that. And just take a step back and just, okay, what feels good,
Mm.
and let's go from there. If feeling good is like up and quitting your job or whatever, I mean, if you have the means to, or if you just, at that point, then do it, right? If it means, you have to get out of a relationship, do it. If it improves your mental health, your quality of life, and everything else, to get rid of, or how to cope with it to make it better, in a sense. So, you know,
Yes, wise words. um and sometimes, and I'll say this and we can move on, but sometimes it's the fear of letting go, right? Even if we're
mhm.
not feeling good. I say, like, to me, I think anxiety in itself is addictive. I also think, in addition to it being addictive, I think it's also um I think it's also something that you can pass on to other people,
Oh yes.
right? And because you're feeling anxious, and so you're passing on that anxious energy to someone else. And so it's sometimes it's the fear of letting go, right? It's that feeling of fear that keeps us from doing the thing that's right for our mental health. But once we kind of get over that roadblock, there are wonderful things on the other end. And I can say that from personal experience of being unemployed. I was terrified of unemployment. I was like, I
Oh
never want to
yes.
be unemployed ever, because there was a stigma about it. And I saw myself as a successful person, and I was afraid of failure. And then when I was unemployed, I was like, this is the best best time ever. Like, I'm having a great
Yeah.
time. I'm having the time of my life. Like, this is really, I was able to heal. I was able to really take a step back and breathe and reassess and make a choice about what I wanted to do next. And I was empowered, right? In that state of unemployment.
Yeah.
Um and so that thing I was afraid of actually was for my best good. But it took me a while to get there. So, all right, let's go ahead, and I have a feeling that you know where I'm at.
I can only guess.
I have a feeling.
I just want to make sure I have this guess right. Let's see. No. Um, I don't know about this. This seems too good to be true.
Okay.
Is it called Under?
It is not under.
Okay. I was like, that seemed too good to be true. Like the restaurant called Underwater. Like I could have just randomly guessed that.
All right. So I'll give you a clue about this
Mhm,
place. So the owner of this place, the founder of this
mhm.
place says that it's really about changing the world through gastronomy and using gastronomy as a platform.
Gastronomy.
Gastronomy. Okay. So, before you guess again, we're going to ask our next question. All right. So, I'm going to ask a fun question and then I'm going to ask a different question, okay? If you were dropped on a different planet and told you could proceed to explore that planet with only one sense, which one would you choose and why?
I would say sight.
Okay.
I would say sight because I would like to, look and really take in what I'm looking at. If, seeing different types of rocks or if there's a waterfall and things like that. I really just want to take in what am I seeing on this different planet? Is it some sort of alien I'm looking at? Like, do I need to,
Run.
run from it? Or is it my friend? Like, what's going on? This I would say sight.
Sight. Okay. That's interesting. I think that's a wise choice. I mean, I don't know. I think it would be hard to depart with my sense of taste. Just because it's such a pleasurable experience. I mean, there everything doesn't taste good. Let's be honest, but there are some things that taste really good, right? So if this planet has safe berries that won't kill me, like if they have really delicious berries and herbs, I would want to be able um, to experience that, and especially if they're different tastes, right? That unlock different types of taste buds.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think taste would be really great. Okay. So my serious question. So this is actually a statistic that I'm going to read to you, okay? So
Okay.
data from a YouGov omnibus poll conducted in 2018
Hmm.
reveals that of the five senses, 70% of people said they would miss their sense of sight. 7% would miss their ability to hear, 5% their ability to taste, 3% their ability to touch, and 2% their sense of smell. Younger Americans, aged 25 to 34, were less likely than Americans over the age of 55 to say they'd miss their sense of sight. What's your reaction to these numbers?
Well, I mean, I can understand sight because I mean, like I mentioned, like I want to be able to see things and like, okay, take it all in because you really, your sight, you, it it really opens. It's like your window, how should I put this? Not the window to the soul exactly, but you really can really see and bask in what's going on. And I feel like for me, I have to be able to look at something, I just that's just me. And I can side with the 70% of people like, no, I need my sight. I can lose my sense of taste or whatever. Like I can just eat to live, right? You
True.
know.
True.
But sight, I really want to be able to see things, see different landmarks or family or what I'm even doing. So I can understand that. And as far as the what was the statistic, the 55 and
Hmm.
older, they said that they wouldn't care about losing their sight as much.
So the statistic was younger Americans aged
Mhm.
25 to 34 were less likely than Americans over the age of 55 to say they'd miss their sense of sight. So it's actually the opposite. So older Americans, or Americans over the age of 55, were more likely to say that they would miss their sense of sight than younger Americans.
Oh, well, that's interesting. I guess I would have expected it to be in the reverse because
Hmm.
maybe like if it was in reverse, the older Americans like, okay, I've seen it all, and you know,
True.
whatever. If I lose my sight, I don't regret it. But to have young people like
Hmm.
no sight, like, that's interesting.
So I kind of read this as you're getting older, one of the first senses to kind of deteriorate is sight. And so I think there's more of a sensitivity there to
Hmm.
it, right? Of man being like, man, I've kind of taken my sight for granted and wow, things are getting blurry. Like, even when I started wearing glasses a few years ago, I was like, oh, it kind of hurt me a little. But now I'm obsessed with glasses. I love glasses. But that's kind of how I read it. And
Hmm.
I wanted, okay, I'm going to change, I'm giving myself permission to change my mind about what sense I want. It's not sight, but I think sound, because I love music
Hmm.
and also just hearing different sounds of life, like ocean wave or a bird chirping or crunch or, like I think my sense of sound would really guide me as well in the direction that I would need to go. So I'm gonna say sense of sound.
Okay.
I'm gonna take
Well,
it back.
that's true. Need some soothing sounds.
Right? Because do you use sleep sounds at all?
I used to. I actually used to. Especially when I was living in an apartment. You
Yeah.
know, the four walls, you sharing sometimes on one side, three sides. I mean, not really four sides, but you know. And it's like, okay, well, my neighbors are a little bit noisy and I need to sleep. And I used to use like white noise to
Mhm.
really help block out, and it's like I don't know why it's soothing to me. Or like if you turn on your fan, like that fan noise and whatnot, I don't know why it's soothing to me, but
For me,
that's
it's rain. Oh my goodness. Give me some rain and I'm out like a light. Okay.
exactly.
Okay. So let's go ahead and take our guess. We are only a few questions away from the end of
Okay.
our show, but I think you got it. So gastronomy, we are in Denmark.
Mm-hmm.
We are in a restaurant, Michelin star.
Mm-hmm.
There are 15 Michelin star restaurants in Denmark.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think we are?
Let's see. Let me use my handy dandy Google. You failed me earlier, Google. Let's see. Huh. Is it Lynn Dini's? Lynn
It
D?
is. It is not Lindy Demies. Okay.
Google. Let's just say Google is not my friend right now.
Okay.
Oh, I think I know what it is. I'll get it on the next one.
You get on the next one.
I'll get it on the next one.
Wait, what letter do you think it starts with?
I think it starts with an S.
It is not. It does not start with an S.
Oh, Google, you failed me.
Okay. So let me help narrow it down a little bit more.
Okay.
Okay. So the location of this place is in, let me just double check and make sure.
Can I ask a question
Sure, of
about the place?
course.
Is the person Nicole Lay? I don't know.
Nikolai? Nikolai
Yes,
or something?
Nikolai. Mm-hmm.
Let me see. I'm not sure, but let's find out.
Right.
And when you say the person, what do you mean? The founder, the chef,
The founder.
the founder. Okay. Let's find out.
Or maybe it was a chef. Let's see.
So the owner, no, it
Okay.
is no. The owner, I'll give you the name though, is also a chef. The owner of the restaurant is called Rasmus Monk.
Rats.
Rasmus Monk. And the location of this restaurant is in the capital of Denmark. Okay, next question.
Okay.
What are some practical steps that young professionals can take to tap into their senses?
Repeat the question one more time. I was looking at Google. I'm sorry. I'm like, I'm gonna get
You
it.
are going to get it. I have faith. What are some practical steps young professionals can take to tap into their senses?
hmm. I would say really think about it. Really think about what you are looking at. What are you tasting? What are you hearing? What are you touching? What are you seeing? What are you smelling? That really matters. And I let's a quick little side story. I it was a food company. And I walked into this food company and the smell hit me
Hmm.
and I was like, no,
Oh.
instantly.
Oh.
Instantly no.
Mm,
And I mean the food company is not a bad company, but it's just sometimes I just knew when I went for that interview, no, instantly, like
mm.
because I cannot deal with this smell every single day.
True.
And it wasn't like the smell just smelled bad or anything, but it didn't smell good to me.
Mm,
So really just think about what really feels good to you. And does it when you're looking at in these interview processes or whatever, how is the interviewer's body language? How does that look to you? Does it look like they are more of like the aggressive body language or passive, or do they look like they are a kind person and things like that? Or how do they sound to you? Do they sound like they are really impressed with you, or are they sounding like they think that you are just nothing? Like how do they sound to you? How does their tone sound? And really go based off that. And how does it feel to be there? Like, you can touch different things. Like, okay, does this table even feel good? And like, if you're touring the facility, in my case, I would tour the facility or the labs and things like that. Touching, the countertops or things like that. Does this even feel good? Can I really see myself here, really touching this desk every single day? And it's like, those little small things are like, that really doesn't matter in the workplace. It does.
Hmm.
It really does. You know. So yes, you use your five senses in a sense, and you don't really think about it. It's like I said before, you don't when you taste the food, you don't think about it. It's just good, whatever. I'm moving on. Even with your professional development and you're trying to further your career, does this career feel good to me? Do I need to change careers or jobs? Does this job feel good to me? Can I see myself here, or do I get good vibes? So yeah.
Man, wise words. And I'll say I've made decisions based on what felt good. I remember going to U of I, actually. I toured several different college campuses and I chose U of I because it felt good. I went there, I was like, oh man, this feels great. I can see myself here, right? Like
Hmm.
going to the quad and seeing students tight roping across the trees. I was like, oh, that's cool. That's different. The smells, right? Going to the dining halls, having a meal, talking
Hmm.
to the students, like really all of those things, as you mentioned, do matter because you're going to be living that every single day. So if you walk into a place and immediately it doesn't feel good to you, what do you think's going to happen when you get hired? Right? It's you're gonna
Exactly.
it's that feeling is going to be the same. So that those are very very wise words. Okay, great. So now, do you know where we are?
All righty, let me double check
Okay.
because Google was tripping earlier. Like, okay, you know. All righty. So the Rasmus Monk.
Hmm. Rasmunk.
I want to say alchemist.
Yes, you got it. You got it. So we are at The Alchemist. This is a cool place that I found. And actually, this background where we're at with these turtles is only one of many types of backgrounds. So I'm guessing I've never been to this place. Would go to Denmark. We're definitely gonna have to stop by here. Um,
Yes.
but this background is kind of like a screen of some sort or maybe like a 4K projection, but they
Hmm.
have different images that they project here. So let me just actually show you maybe some of the other images so you can get to see what I'm actually talking about. So this is the same place, but as you can
Hmm.
see now, it looks like it's springtime. There are some beautiful purple trees. And then I'll also show you another version of this place where now we're definitely in Alaska somewhere. There's some northern light things going on here, lots of beautiful
Hmm.
trees, and you can see how the tables are lit behind us. So very cool spot. They do gastronomy. And it's located in Copenhagen, Denmark. So
Hmm.
yeah, definitely a place that I want to visit once we travel to Europe. Okay.
Definitely.
So we're here near the end of our show. Um, Before you go, I do want to ask maybe two more questions. The one
Hmm.
question was kind of a preface of we talked about you being a new mom. So tell us, what are some of the things you're looking forward to as a new mom who's also balancing career?
I look forward to flexibility, honestly. I didn't realize flexibility is very key now. And talking to my husband, like, okay, what are our schedules? How flexible can we be? And especially raising a new baby and taking care of a baby, which is a lot of work. And it's like, okay, how flexible can I be? How much time can I dedicate to my child? And also my career, like, I recently got a certificate in sensory science. So I'm certified in it. And it's like, okay, right before I gave birth, I got my certificate. How do I keep using that in my career field? So it's like, okay, how do I balance that? So, what's important to me now is flexibility. I want to be able to um, not miss any milestones of my daughter. I want to be there and also do what I love doing, still in the food industry and also, teaching people how to taste and really trying to get a understanding on how people really feel about different products and things like that because it's really quite interesting, with the sensory side, like from the consumer side. Okay, the consumer is untrained and they really speak their mind like, okay, I'm tasting this Reese's cup, and this peanut butter does not taste like the regular peanut butter from a Jif peanut butter jar or something like that. You know what I mean? So, or like, really training people, okay, what is it, analytically on a scale? What is it? What attributes are you identifying, and can we come to a consensus on it? And things like that. So it's like, okay, how do I balance work and motherhood? And yeah, it's just having that flexibility, knowing my limits on both. And it's like crazy, like motherhood has limits. Yes, it does. It does. But yeah.
And that's wonderful. And I'm sure as you continue, you're going to find that balance, right? And who knows
Mhm.
if it becomes easier, if it becomes a little bit harder at first. And again, this is just one of those moments where we ride the tide and we figure it out. It's our first go. And we have to give ourselves permission and to not get it right all the time and also grace. So
Yes.
I am so thrilled for you and I know you're going to be a wonderful, wonderful mother
Thank
and your job just sounds so cool. So as we begin to wrap up, I have one final question for you. And this is a question that we ask all of the guests on our show. That question is, how would you describe success?
success to me Success to me is, it can mean a number of things to other people. It can be, oh, I achieved my goals. Oh, I got the job, or I'm doing well in this and that and the other. But for me, is what really feels good for me. And, it feels good to, um, get what I want and being good at different things. It's like, okay, well, I am successfully good at that and things like that. But for me, I feel like success is uh, doing things that I love that feels good to me, and I'm just really happy about it. And I mean, success all doesn't always mean everything is going to go right? But it's also a learning curve. So what have I learned through, throughout this journey, and how is it going to benefit me in, the long run? So it's like failure is in a sense success because it's like, oh, I shouldn't do that anymore. Let me switch gears and try it again and, just really have that drive to become successful and feel good about it and to really enjoy it.
And I really love what you're saying about failure as being success because I have a controversial thought that I go back and forth about whether or not I actually believe in failure. And the reason why is because I believe if you fail at something and you learn something and you grow from it, was it actually a failure? Right? Was it a complete
Mhm.
total failure? I believe that if it's failure, to fail means to not do anything at all, to take no action. And as long as you're taking action as you're moving forward, you're successful as long as you're learning and you're growing. So, love that perspective. Thank you so much for sharing. And before you go, I
Mm-hmm.
put you on the big screen for a little bit because I wanted to grab something for you. I have a gift that all of the guests on the show are receiving. Last week was the first time that we actually introduced this gift because I call this show a mini series, mini web series game show, but I
Mm-hmm.
never really have a prize to give. But now I do have prizes. So everyone on the show is a winner, including you. And I have this really cool um, this is a tech pouch. Let's see if you can
Oh.
actually see it. Yeah, cool. So this is a tech pouch, and
Mm-hmm.
here you can kind of put in all of um, your cables. Here you can toss in there. There's some pockets here that you can toss in a like a power adapter, and then you
Mm-hmm.
can put like a power bank here. I like to put my pins here.
Okay.
And then it comes with a nice little handle so that you can just clip on
Oh.
there and carry it around. So I'm gonna get your information after this, and we'll send this out to you. And we have a few different colors that you can choose from. So I'll send you
Okay.
those photos. And I want to just say thank you so much for joining the show and for sharing your perspective. I'm going to take some time after this and I'm going to slow down a little bit and I'm really going to kind of feel life. And I'm going to go get a Rice Krispie treat. That's gonna be the first step. Go get my Rice Krispie treat, and I'm gonna be like, I know it's gooey, but what else? What other kind of what does it smell like? What does it taste like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like on my hands? Right. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
really looking forward to having that experience. Thank you so much for opening us up to a whole new world that's right at our fingertips and right under our noses and right in front of our eyes. And really giving us a gift today. So
Thank you for having me, Clary. It was a pleasure. And also, thank you for my gift. I'm excited about that.
you gonna love it. Okay, can I talk about it? So we one more thing, then we're gonna end the show. But let's talk about it because I came up with this idea. I didn't design these, but I did come up with this idea
Mhm,
of getting these because I was having this challenge. I go to a lot of coffee shops and I carry around all of my technology with me and I have all my technology is in the bottom of my bag and I'm trying to
mhm,
find my charger, but my charger is tangled in my pins and my pins are wedged underneath all of my books. So it was really a challenge to figure out how do I just consolidate everything. And so I
mhm.
came up with this idea of creating tech pouches. And my idea is that I actually want to design these. I think it'd be really, really cool. Um, and so for now, these are gifts that I'm giving to everyone and would love to get your feedback and what you think on them. But I think it's going to really be great for you. And ever since I've been using mine, I'm like, oh my goodness, thanks so much for my tech pouch. So I can't wait for you to have the same experience.
I'm excited to use it and definitely put it in my work bag because,
Okay. Like, I don't even want to know what that looked like. Okay.
yeah.
Well, Shahrazad, thank you so much for coming on the show. And we will be in touch very soon.
All right. Sounds
All right.
good. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.